הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. Good morning, Shabbat Shalom, and welcome to Congregation Sher Zedek, the beautiful prairies of Manitoba, Canada. It's kind of weird. I don't know where to look, to you or to the camera today. We are kind of, we have to relearn how to do it with some people in the sanctuary. It's great to see all of you here. We have a small group in the sanctuary because we are celebrating a bar mitzvah, Nathan Strauss. By the way, works so hard for this moment and reminds me of something beautiful from this week's parsha. In fact, it says, it's talking about sacrifices. And it says that the sacrifices were a reach nichoach, which was a pleasant smell for God. And the interesting thing about the reach nichoach is the Torah uses the same word regardless of the kind of sacrifices. Some of the sacrifices were big animals. Some were small animals. Some were very tiny little animals, like a little bird. And sometimes it was just flour mixed with oil. And everything was a reach nichoach. And the rabbis explain that this was this way because the big animals were reserved, for example, for wealthy people, that they would bring that. And the small ones were for people who could not afford these big ones. But it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter if your sacrifice is big or is small. Everything is a reach nichoach ladonai. Everything is acceptable to God if you bring it with all your heart. And I was thinking how appropriate this is for these days, right? Sometimes you think that having a bar mitzvah with 45 people is less than having a bar mitzvah with 400 people here in the sanctuary. And you should know that for God, 45 or 450 is a reach nichoach. It's a pleasant thing. Why? Because we put all our heart in what we do. And I can, how do we say, bear witness of how hard Nathan worked for this time. So we should all be so proud and enjoy it. And we are sure that this is putting a smile on God's face. So we can all celebrate the bar mitzvah and the Shabbat in congregation, either here or online through the magic of the internet. So welcome everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for coming out. And thank you for opening your hearts to us and your homes to us so we can all pray together this beautiful Shabbat morning. Welcome, Rabbi Leibel.
Welcome, Rabbi Mas. Nice opening. I liked it. Look what I have here. This is cool. This is the original Nathan Strauss Bar Mitzvah invitation for November 14th, 2020. This is like a hockey card with a misprinted birth date or something like that.
Are you going to put it in a plastic envelope?
I think so. I save all the invitations, assuming the family remembers to invite me. I show up anyway. But This one is special. I think I'm going to get Nathan to sign it after Shabbat. You know, it's like a moment in time that never really quite happened. But I'm told the kippas have a callback to the original date as well.
Oh, wow.
And it'll come up in the service because this is uncharted territory. You know, Nathan's bar mitzvah was kind of railroaded a week before it was supposed to happen by the lockdown in November. And so we were waiting, when's it going to be? What are we going to learn in the meantime? We'll talk about it later. But then when we picked finally this new date, now we have kind of two parshas at play, the two parts of the Torah, the one that Nathan learned originally and the one that Nathan learned for today. So we'll have to see how that works out over the course. But yeah, this is, I don't know if there are other copies, but save them.
This is like for people who collect stamps. The one who can with a little mistake and they have to take it away.
That's what I mean, right? Yeah, like, or, you know, I'm on a board of the Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame, and for the 40th anniversary, they printed up all of these collector bottle openers that were at everybody's table. No one realized that they printed 40th anniversary. It happens. It's terrible. We're all sitting there. We're just like, what? What is the night of the dinner anyway? November 14th, 2020.
Yeah. In 30 years, when you try to sell it in an auction, please invite me. I want to see that.
I will. I'm going to go on eBay tomorrow morning and see if there are any from these folks floating around out there. We'll see. But yeah, it's going to be, I mean, like you said, a reach nichoach, a pleasing odor. So let's get to it. Can't wait to get on with Shabbat morning. We got a lot of people on the chat who are watching.
It's great.
Even people in Western time zones. I saw Palo Alto showed up. It's like 8 in the morning there.
What?
That's early.
They're still in bed.
Yeah, that's true.
Watching from the smart TV.
That's true.
So please rise so we can start the service counting our blessings. And for that, if you have a Siddur with you, open it on page 5 as we count blessings together, singing the Birkot HaShachar. Elohai, Elohai, Neshama, Neshama, Shenatatabi, Shenatatabi, Tehorahi, Tehorahi. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher nata l'asech v'vinalev chimenu v'layla.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asani betzalmo.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asani ben chorin.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asani Israel.
Amen.
Together. Elohai, Elohai, Neshama, 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 Shenatatabi, Shenatatabi, Tehorahi, Tehorahi, Tehorahi. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, pokeach ivrim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, malbish arumim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, atir asurim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, zokeif kefufim.
Amen.
Together. Elohai, Elohai, Neshama, Neshama, Shenatatabi, Shenatatabi, Tehorahi, Tehorahi. Page 6. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, rokah haaretz al hamayim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asa li kol tzorkim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hameichim mitzadei gaver.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, ozer Israel v'gevura.
Amen.
Together. Elohai, Elohai, Neshama, Neshama, Shenatatabi, Shenatatabi, Tehorahi, Tehorahi. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Oter Israel v'tifara. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Anotel Yaef Kohach.
Amen.
One more time. Elohai. You're at home, sing it too. Neshama. Come on.
Neshama.
Shenatatabi.
Shenatatabi.
Tehorahi. And you may be seated as we turn to page 8, middle of the page. Let's praise the name of God together, singing the Psalm 150. Hallelujah, El Vekocho, Hallelujah, Birikia Uzo, Hallelujah, Bikvurotav, Hallelujah, Kerov Gudlo, Hallelujah, Beteka Shofar, Hallelujah, Benam el Bechinor. Together. Hallelujah. 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 Hallelujah, vetofu machol. Hallelujah, beminim veukav. Hallelujah, vetzil shama. Hallelujah, vetzil truat. Kolan shamate hallelujah. 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 Please turn to page 46 and please rise for the mourner's Kaddish. Itgadal ve'itgadash shemei rabab.
Amen.
Ve'almad diverach irutei ve'yamblich malchutei v'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol beit Israel ba'agala uvizman kari ve'imru amen.
Amen.
Yehesh mer rabba mevorach le'alam ule'olmei olmaya. Itvarach ve'ishtavach ve'itpa'ar ve'itromam ve'itnaseh. Ve'ithadar ve'itale ve'ithalal shemei de kudesha berichu. Le'eila min kol virchata ve'shirata tushbechata ve'nechemata damiram ve'alma v'imeru amen. Yehesh lama rabba min shemaya ve'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Israel v'imeru amen. Ose shalom imrumav u'ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Israel ve'imeru.
Amen.
You may be seated. So many messages, Leslie. Do we have any messages for our bar mitzvah boy there?
They're all woven together. I noticed there are some kids here online, and I always like to acknowledge the kids who say hello. So hello to Ryan and Sarah Richters, and to all the adults here. I see you, and we are so happy to know that you're here this morning. Welcome. Fanny is here with Alina Lashev, Shabbat Shalom, and Bonnie Robinson sends a mazel tov to her old friend here today. We have so many messages here. Your mom's here, Anibal. I saw her walk in.
Hola, mami.
Hola, mami. We have. I'm just going right through here. There's so very many. Phyllis Laveman wishes a Shabbat Shalom and a Mazel Tov to the Strauss family. We have messages from Jamie Nolan for the Strauss family. Mazel Tov Nathan with love from Minneapolis. We have, oh my goodness, there's just so many. Murray and Sharon Nazen are wishing you all a Mazel Tov. We have Bonnie Cham here. Priscilla Kerr, Ellen Sue Mesber, Mazel Tov, Nathan and Strauss family, Shabbat Shalom to all, Ellen Sue and David from Toronto, Karen Diane, Sammy and Leo, hello, I see you, Shabbat Shalom to you and your family, Shira Jordan, Mazel Tov from cousin Shira in Toronto, and Mona Hutchings. Welcome everybody and Shabbat Shalom to you all, and a warm Mazel Tov because we have a Simcha today, and we are so happy to have a Simcha here in the sanctuary. It's so nice to be here.
Thank you, Leslie. And by the way, as you can see, we have the chat open. The chat works on YouTube and Facebook, and we can read all the messages. In fact, all the messages will stay on the video on YouTube after we finish the service. So if you want to send any good wishes to the bar mitzvah, use the chat so the family can read it afterwards. And now that you're there, if you are new to our service, maybe you want to subscribe to our channel. You have to hit the red button to subscribe. And if you want to be notified every time we go live or every time we upload something to our channel, hit the bell so you will get a notification every time we send something good your way. So let's continue with our service on page 10, second paragraph, Shochenat Marom. Shochenat Marom Vekadosh Shemo.
Shochenat Marom Vekadosh Shemo.
Befi Yesharim Titalal V'divrei Tzadikim Titba'arach Uvilshon Chasidim Titromam ובקרב קדושים תתקדש. Bottom of the page, the חצי קדיש. יתגדל ויתקדש שמרבה.
Amen.
ועלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי. בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי לכל בית ישראל בגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמרבה מבורך לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי מקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה ושמחתה ונחמתה תאמירן בעלמא ואמרו ואמרו I would like to invite you all to rise once again. On page 12, we have the opportunity to bless the name of God, the source of all blessing, with the Baruch. Barechu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam yotzer or uvorech choshech oseh shalom uvoret hakol. You may be seated. As we approach the Shema Israel, the declaration of Jewish faith, page 14, the tradition is to cover our eyes, either with your talit or with your hand, when we recite the Shema Israel. Shema Israel Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Page 15. Ve'avta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavecha ubechol nafshecha ubechol meodecha. Ve'ayu advarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha. ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם ושבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. Please continue silently. Bottom of page 15, the whole page 16, and top of page 17. Adonai Elohechem Emet. Middle of page 17. We have a beautiful prayer, a song of victory. Mi chamocha. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai. Mi chamocha nedar ba'kodesh. Nora tehilo osefele. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai. Mi chamocha nedar ba'kodesh. תהילות אוסף פלא. שירה חדשה שבחוג גאולים לשמך, על שפת הים יחד כולם הודו והמליכו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדע בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף פלא. Please rise. צור ישראל קומה בעזרת ישראל, ופדחנו מך יהודה בישראל, פועלנו אדוני צבאות שמו קדוש ישראל. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדע בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף פלא. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. Please remain standing for the Amidah, which begin on page 18. We are going to start singing together on page 18 the first 3 blessings. After that, we have the opportunity to continue silently all the way to the end of the Amidah. Even though we are going to sing the first 3 blessings in Hebrew, when you go into your silent Amidah, the silent part of the Amidah, you can use the Hebrew, the English, or you can also use your own words of prayer. The most important thing of the Amidah is to take a moment to pray and to strengthen our connection with our Creator. So do whatever works for you, Hebrew, English, or your own words of prayer. Let's start together, page 18. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות, ומביא גואל לבני בניהם, למען שמו ואהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה, אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מקיים מתים אתה, רב להושיע, משיב הרוח, מוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מקיים מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישוע. page 20. ונאמנת להחיות מתים, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיה המתים. bottom of the page. נקדש את שמך בעולם כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום ככתוב על יד נביאך וקרא זה ואמר קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות מלוך כל הארץ כבודו. אז וקול רעש גדול אדיר וחזק משמיעים קול מתנסים לעומת צרפים לעומתם ברוך יאמרו ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. ממקומך מלכנו תופיע ותמלוך עלינו כמחכים אנחנו לך. מתי תמלוך וציון בקרוב וימינו לעולם ועד תשכון. תתגדל ותתקדש בתוך ירושלים עירך לדור ודור ולנצח נצחים. ואיננו תרנה מלכותך כדבר אמור ושירי עוזך על ידי דוד משיח צדקך. ימלוך אדוני לעולם אלוהי ציון לדור ודור הללויה. page 22. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש. בשבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד. בשבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצח לנצחים, קדושתך נקדיש, כי אל מלך גדול וקדוש אתה לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, לדור ודור נגיד גודלך. ברוך אתה אדוני. האל Please continue silently. Once you finish your prayer, you may be seated. The Kaddish Shalem, page 32. יתגדל ויתקדש שמרבה.
Amen.
בעלמא תברח חירותי וימליך מלכותו ויקייכנו יום יכנו בחטא כל בית ישראל בעגלו בזמן גרי וימרו.
Amen.
יש מרבה מבורך לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתרום ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה על שמדי קודשה. בריחו לאין לה מכל כתה ושידתה תושבחתה ונחמתה תמידה מעלמה וימרו. אמן. תתקפל צלותינו ותאון דכל ישראל קודם ובונדי בשמיה וימרו. אמן. יש למה רבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל וימרו. אמן. עושה שלום ממרומיו ויעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל וימרו. Amen.
Asher Koach, Rabbi.
Yeshe Koyach, Rabbi.
Asher Koach, Leslie. Thanks for a beautiful street and everyone for following along. In a moment, we're going to move into the next part of our service, which is the Torah service. The opening up the ark, taking the Torah scrolls out, and getting ready to read from them. But just before we do that, it's their first kind of bar mitzvah moment of the morning. And we're going to invite Nathan to the bima along with his parents, Allison and Jonathan, as his parents will be presenting Nathan with his talit, his prayer shawl at long last. In our tradition, the prayer shawl is one of those symbols of the bar mitzvah, something that you get when you come of age, when you turn 13. In this case, when you get to finally get into the synagogue and get on the bima. You can take off your mask, Nathan, so that we can hear you say the blessing. The prayer shawl has in its corners the tzitzit, fringes. This is a Torah commandment, a commandment right out of the Bible. We're told that the tzitzit are supposed to remind us, every time we look at them, of the mitzvot, the commandments, the rules upon which Jewish tradition and Jewish law are based. Up to this point in his life, Nathan's been listening to his parents, listening to his teachers, trying to find out where he fits into everything. But now that he is bar mitzvah, he is literally a son of the mitzvot, a son of the commandments, responsible for understanding and following these mitzvot, incorporating them into his life as he starts making decisions for himself. It's kind of the first milestone on the way to more independence, being able to drive, being able to vote, moving out of his parents' house, all of these things. It really starts here with his bar mitzvah. Well, it's not happening tomorrow. It's going to happen, though. It's going to happen. My mom says that one day I walked down the stairs and I was, like 5'6" or something, and she remembered me being a little kid. So it happens, right? And here, this is one of those moments of growing up, of coming into adulthood. And it's very significant that Nathan get his talit from his parents, who in many ways today are passing a torch of responsibility onto their son. So there is a blessing to be said as Nathan receives his talit, a beautiful hand-woven talit by Allison, right? I got that right? Amazing. A beautiful job, great colors, and every stitch made with love. So, Nathan, take it away with the blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehitatef b'tzitzit.
Amen. We'll invite Noah to come up and join his parents and brother on the bima as they will be helping us open the ark. We invite everyone else here or wherever you are watching from to rise as the ark is opened, and we continue on page 33 with Vayehi bin Soa ha'aron and the Torah service.
ויהי בנשוא אהרון ויאמר משה קום אדוני ויפוצו אויביך וינוסו משנאיך מפניך כי מציון תצא תורה ציון תצא תורה ודבר אדוני מירושלים ברוך שנתן תורה תורה ברוך שנתן תורה תורה ישראל בקדושתו. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai
Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adoneinu Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu Gadol
אדוני איתי, ונרוממה שמו יחדיו.
לך אדוני הגדולה והגבורה והתפארת והנצח וההוד, כי חור בשמיים ובארץ, כי חור בשמיים ובארץ. לך אדוני הממלכה והמתנשא לכל ראש.
רוממו,
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 רוממו, אדוני אלוהינו, והשתחווה, השתחווה, והשתחווה,
אדון רגליו קדוש הוא. רוממו,
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 אדוני אלוהינו, והשתחוו,
והשתחווה,
והשתחוו,
והשתחווה,
הר קודשו, כי קדוש, כי קדוש, אדוני אלוהינו.
Please be seated. As Rabbi Moss and Leslie mentioned, there were a ton of messages coming in on the chat for people watching on our YouTube and Facebook channels, and I wanted to share some of these messages. We got a nice cross-section of our regulars who are with us week after week on Shabbat morning, and family and friends, invited guests of the Strauss family. So we've got Harry Ewell saying Mazel Tov Nathan and family, Priscilla Kerr, Mazel Tov Nathan. Who else did we have? John, son of David. Shabbat Shalom. You know him. Good. That's good that you know him. I mean, we'll take people we don't know too, but that's good. Mazel Tov to you, Nathan, and your family. Lita and Jerry Nemiroff. Nomi Crudo. Mazel Tov to Nathan and family. Terry Wexler. Shabbat Shalom to all. Helen says, it's wonderful to see Sherrod Zedek. It brings back memories of growing up in Winnipeg. Well, we hope you can come back sometime soon, Helen. Dr. Debbie Pollack, Mazel Tov to the Bar Mitzvah boy, Nathan. Joanne Seif, Shabbat Shalom. Good to see everybody. Margot Berger, Mazel Tov from Barry and Margot to the Strauss family. Josue Silva's there. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. We got people in Toronto. Shachi, Kobe, and Ella wishing a Mazel Tov. Erla Ford is in the house. Mona Hutchings. Shira Judan, I think you mentioned that. Mazel Tov to Nathan from Cousin Shira in Toronto. Corey Glasberg, he's one of our Shabbat morning regulars, wishes you a Mazel Tov. Nathan and family. Karen Ackerman with us. Good morning. Boker Tov. Ellen Sue Mesber, we mentioned. Mazel Tov to Nathan and the Strauss family. Ellen Sue and David in Toronto. Where was that Palo Alto? I wanted to find that. There was somebody out in Stanford. I swear. Maybe it's because... Really? But they said it. They said it. And stop shouting out from the crowd. What is this? It's not a comedy show. Still synagogue. Here it is. That's right. It's Helen and Tevi in Palo Alto. That's right. No, I'm kidding. You can shout out. I like it. I like that. I like the interaction. In fact, so far we've had a lot of that by following along with our Siddur, with our prayer book, participating. And we're going to switch books, but you can still follow along because this is the part of our Shabbat morning service where we read from the Torah. So this book I'm holding up here, the Eitz Chaim Chumash. Should be some copies in the pews. I think people can follow along so that you can follow along as we read. Different people will be reading out of the Torah this morning in the original ancient Hebrew. We'll provide a few commentary notes and explanations as we go along. There's also an English side to it as well. The Eitz Chaim Chumash, our reading this morning, begins on page 592. If you're following at home and you don't have an Eitz Chaim Chumash, you have two options. On our website, szwinnipeg.ca, we put up a new PDF every week with that week's Torah readings. So you can follow along just as everybody in-house, again on page 592. If you're like my Baba and you refuse to download the PDF, it's a point of principle, but you want to follow with your own Chumash that was passed down to you from generations, I'll give you the chapter and verse. Leviticus, chapter 3, verses 1 to 5. That is our first of 7 aliyot, 7 readings from the first scroll of the Torah. Why do I say first? Because there is a second scroll, and we'll explain why when we get there. But for now, today, following our Shabbat style of reading another parsha, another portion of the Torah, week after week after week, to complete the Torah reading from beginning to end over the course of 1 year. Today we begin a new book of the Torah, which is the book in English, we call it Leviticus. In Hebrew, it's called Vayikra. That is also the name of the parsha, Vayikra. And Leviticus, the context is that the people of Israel, the Bnei Israel, the Israelites, have been at the base of Mount Sinai, Har Sinai, for a year. They're going to be there for an entire year. After getting out of Egypt, which we'll celebrate again soon in the coming weeks of Passover, get the parting of the sea, all of those miracles, the revelation of God at Mount Sinai, the receiving of the 10 Commandments and the rest of the commandments, the Torah, all of that stuff has happened. And they spent the last year building the tabernacle, the Mishkan, the portable, temporary sanctuary that will be the precursor to the temple. When they finally get to the land of Israel, they will build the temple kind of modeled after the Mishkan, the tabernacle. They've just built the tabernacle, and it's ready to go. And so Leviticus opens with a series of mitzvot, a series of rules for what to do in the Mishkan, namely what and how to offer animal sacrifices. Remember, this is thousands of years ago. Nowadays, we go through the exercise that we've just spent the first roughly hour this morning, 45 minutes of prayer, tefillah. But for the ancient Israelites, prayer wasn't their way of getting close to God. Their way of getting close to God was to offer up animal sacrifices. And Rabbi Moss talked about this a little bit at the beginning. In fact, Rabbi Green, our former senior rabbi, or Rabbi Emeritus, used to talk about how in the Hebrew, the word sacrifice or offering is korban. And it contains the Hebrew letters kuf, resh, vet, which mean close, to get close to somebody. So right in the Hebrew for a sacrifice and offering is this idea, the subtle message, maybe not so subtle, that by offering up animal sacrifices of a pleasing odor, like we talked about before, this was the way that even the average Israelite could feel a connection to God. And so they did this with the help of the Kohanim, the priests who were officiating in the Mishkan. And we're going to study today, in our Torah reading for today, for the Parsha Vayikra, 2 types of sacrifices that were offered back in the day. There were 5 general categories of sacrifices, and today we'll be focusing on 2. The first one is called the Zevach Shlamim, which is often translated as the sacrifice of well-being or the Thanksgiving sacrifice. And then the second sacrifice is called the Chatat, often called the sin offering. The well-being is when you wanted to celebrate something because you actually got to eat some of the meat. The sin offering was when you did something wrong and you needed to kind of go through the steps of purification. So we'll see those both unfold over the next 7 readings. Again, it's page 592. If you're following in the Etz Chaim Chumash, it's Leviticus chapter 3, verses 1 through 5. Our first Torah reader this morning is our lay clergy, Leslie Emery, who will start things off for us. The tradition is that different people get called up to the Torah to recite blessings before and after each reading. This is an honor that is reserved for people who have come of age in Jewish tradition. So at the end of the Torah service, we will have Nathan's first aliyah to the Torah, another one of these symbols like the talit of reaching the age of majority. He will also have other members of his family, parents, grandparents, maybe an uncle over Zoom from out of town, other people who will participate. And also before that, we have some different people from our congregation because getting called to the Torah is a kavod, it's an honor. People do it to celebrate occasions like birthdays, anniversaries, babies being born, recovering from an illness or returning from a trip, or to commemorate something more somber like a yortzeit, the anniversary of a loved one who passed away around this time or on this date in the many years ago. It's just like sacrifices. You can be offering one for well-being, or you can be offering one for other reasons, like possibly purification after doing something wrong. So, our first aliyah is open. I'm going to give it to you.
Okay.
You can handle it?
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank
good. Good. And then we've got other people who come in. And the cool thing is that with technology, we have people who can join us by Zoom. If they're in the congregation, you'll get to hear them. If you're watching on your phone, you get to see them. And then we'll have people who are in-house join us as well. So one more time, page 592, we'll get into this morning's Torah reading from Vayikra. V'yazor v'yem yoshil lachol achosim bo v'nomar amen. Hakol avugodel Eloheinu tnu chavel Torah tamor. Shoshana bat Leah Malka l'Aliyah Rishona. Baruch shenatan tromo Yisrael b'kedushato. Ve'atem advegim Adonai Elohechem. Chaim kochem hayom.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach leolam vaed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach leolam vaed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol hamim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Im zevach shlamim korbano, im min abakar hu makriv, im zachar im nekeva, tamim yakrivenu lifnei Adonai, v'samach yado rosh karbano, ushchatu petach ohel moed, v'zarku b'nei Aaron hakohanim et adam, על מזבח סביב, והקריב מזבח השמים משל אדוני, את החלב המכסה את הקרב, ואת כל החלב אשר על הקרב, ואת שתי הכליות, ואת החלב אשר עליהן אשר על הכסלים, ואת היותת על הכבד, על הכליות יסירנה, יקטירו אותו בני אהרון המזבח העולה אשר על העצים אשר על האש ישא ריח ניחוח לאדוני. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Shikochech, Leslie.
Baruch tieh.
You see at the very end, this is the phrase that Rabbi Mas was talking about in his opening remarks. Isheh, a gift offering to God. Reach nichoach ladonai, a pleasing odor to God. Reach nichoach. In this part of Leviticus, the focus is kind of the mechanics, how you offer these sacrifices. It's not the most interesting story that the Torah has to offer. It gives us a glimpse into thousands of years ago and the beginning of worship for the Jewish people, which is always a little bit interesting. But it doesn't even mention here, you'd have to keep reading, take my word for it, that the Zevach Shlamim was very interesting because people got to eat from the meat. Usually, when an animal was sacrificed, the animal was completely burnt up. Here you see it's only certain parts, and it's usually the best parts. Now, I don't have a lot of experience with animal sacrifice, but the research I've done has told me that the kidneys and the suet and all that good, that's the best stuff, and so that's the part that would go to God. But the meat that was left over was actually used for a festive meal, which made this sacrifice very, very interesting. Other sacrifices, all of the meat would be burnt up, but in this case, and if you keep reading in future chapters in Leviticus, it talks about that aspect of it. Here, over the next couple of aliyot, they're going to talk about what if you don't have a bull, but if it's a different animal like a goat or a sheep. So it gets a little bit repetitive, but the idea here is that the best parts of the animal are a gift to God, but a lot of the meat will be saved and then used, and then they'll invite everybody. I don't know if they had a 45-person limit. I'm sure they had an unlimited situation, and they could have everybody down at the temple and have a big meal. We'll keep reading. Our next aliyah covers verses 6 through 11. Still chapter 3 in Leviticus, page 594. Leviticus chapter 3, verses 6 through 11. Our next honoree is joining us on Zoom. Sandy Polanski has accepted this aliyah to the Torah, commemorating her father Al Arnovich's yortzeit. We've got her. Tamod Sima Bar Avram Ubasya L'Aliyah Hashniah. And Leslie will continue reading for us.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamvorah.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam. Asher barchanu mikol hamin v'netan lanu Torato. Baruch Ata Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Vehiminaton korbano lezevach shlamim ladonai. Zacharo nekeva tamim yakrivenu. Im kesev hu makriv et korbano. Hikrivoto lifnei Adonai. V'samach et yado rosh korbano. V'shachatoto lifnei ohel moed. V'zarku. B'nei Aharon et amo al hamizbeach saviv, v'ikriv mizevach hashlamim mishel Adonai, chelbo al yad tmima, l'umat ha'etza yesirena, v'et hachelav ha'mechaseh et hakerev, v'et kol hachelav asher al hakerev, v'et shtei haklayot, v'et hachelav asher alehen, asher al haksalim, Atayot ala kaved, ala klayot isirena, diktiro akohen hamizbecha lechem mishel Adonai.
Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Natan Lanu Torah Temet V'chayei Olam Neta B'tochenu Baruch Ata Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Yasher Kochech to Sandy
Thank you.
Polanski. Shabbat Shalom. Great to have
Shabbat
you
Shalom.
join
So
us.
nice to be here and be seen. Thank you.
One day we're going to get cameras, or not cameras, screens.
Yeah.
That'll be weird. It'll
That'll be
take
weird.
some adjusting, but it'll be good because then we'll get to see people. But for now, we get to hear people, and that'll be good because we have another Zoom Aliyah coming up and another one later in the service. Up next is Shlishi, our third of 7 readings from the first scroll, page 594, Leviticus chapter 3, verses 12 through 17. One more kind of subcategory within the Zevach Shlamim. This is if it's, I think we did a sheep, goat. We'll get it. We'll get it. Leslie's going to read one more for us. And our honoree joining us on Zoom, commemorating his mother, Mary Barish's yortzeit, is Earl Barish. We call him here for Shlishi, the third Aliyah. Yamod Yisrael Yosef ben Yaakov u'Miriam l'Aliyah hashliishit.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Hamim V'natan Lanu et Torato. Baruch Ata Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Behimes korbano, vikrivo lifnei Adonai, v'samach et yado rosho, v'shachatoto lifnei ohel moed, v'zarku b'nei Aharon et amo, al hamizbeach saviv, v'ikriv mimenu korbano ishel Adonai, את החלב המכסה את הקרב, ואת כל החלב אשר על הקרב, ואת שתי הכליות, ואת החלב אשר עליהן, אשר על הכסלים, ואת היותרת על הכבד, על הכליות יסירנה, והקטירם הכהן המזבחה, לחם משל ריח ניחוח, כל חלב לאדוני, חוקת עולם לדורותיכם, בכל מושבותיכם, כל חלב וכל דם לא תאכלו.
Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chaye olam nata b'tochenu, Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Amen. Yasher Koach to Earl Barish, our third honoree. So glad that you could join us on Zoom. Earl's with us pretty much every week. I noticed that. He's in the chat.
I am, yes.
We love it.
And thank you very much for this opportunity and honor for my mother on her 25th Yortzeit. I appreciate it very much. Shabbat Shalom to everybody.
Of course. Thank you, Earl, for your continued support and for joining us this morning. And Yasher Kochech to Leslie Emery for 3 beautiful Torah readings covering chapter 3 and the Zevach Shlamim offering. That's great. Leslie reads Torah for us every Monday morning, Thursday morning, Saturday afternoon, and also a little bit on Shabbat morning. I'll have an opportunity to read from the Torah, so I'm going to head up to the reader table in just a second. I wanted to share some of the messages that are coming in about the people who have had aliyot. We got great support from all of our congregants, wherever they're watching from. Rena wishes Sandy a Yasher Koach. Bonnie Cham wishing Sandy Polanski a Yasher Koach, as well Phyllis Laveman. Alice Weissman saying, wonderful to see you. It's been so long. Bonnie Robinson, Yasher Kochech. Sandy, great to see you. Leslie getting an offering, getting a Yasher Koach from Phyllis Laveman. Hannon Bell wishing Sandy a Yasher Koach. And Sandy thanking everyone. We've got Mara Doktorov here saying Shabbat Shalom, Mazel Tov, and Yasher Koach Earl. Larry and Glory Fleischer, Yasher Koach Sandy. Rena Yasher Koach Earl. Phyllis as well. Same with Bonnie. Hannon and Alice. It's so nice to see everybody wishing well to the people who have been our honorees. As I move up to the table, we'll also invite Rana Judan to come forward. We like to reserve a few aliyot for members of Nathan and his family, because, of course, they're participating in the service, and it's a simcha for them, for Nathan and for his parents, for his cousins, for his grandparents, his brother, for everybody who's connected here. So for people who are doing an aliyah in-house, we'll use the far reading table, social distancing. What a world. We'll have the readers at this table. The fourth aliyah moves us into the next chapter, chapter 4 in the book of Leviticus. This will cover verses 1 through 7, beginning on page 595. So we've had the first type of sacrifice. Now the second type of sacrifice is called the chatat. It's usually translated as the sin offering. I'll tell you in a reading or two why it may not be the most appropriate name. Yes, it's because somebody sins, and that's the reason for making an offering, but maybe it requires a different translation. We'll take a look at that. For now, let's get into it. Page 595, chapter 4, verses 1 through 7. Tamod, Rana bar Yitzchak v'Chana, Lalia Harevit.
Baruch Hu Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach leolam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayedaber Adonai al Moshe lemor. Daber el bnei Yisrael lemor. Nefesh. Ki techeta bishgaga mikol mitzvot Adonai asher lo te'asena ve'asa me'achad mehena im hakohen hamashiach yecheta le'ashmat ha'am v'ikriv al chatato asher chata Par ben bakar tamim Adonai lechatat. Vehevi et apar el petach oel moed lifnei Adonai. V'samach et yado al rosh apar. V'shachat et apar lifnei Adonai. V'lakach hakohen hamashiach midam hapar. Vehevi oto el moed. v'tava kohen et etzba'o b'adam, v'hiza min hadam sheva pe'amim lifnei Adonai et pnei parochet hakodesh, v'natan hakohen min hadam al karnot mizbach ketoret asamim lifnei Adonai asher be'ohel moed ve'et kol dam apar yishpoch el yesod mizbach ha'olah asher petach ohel moed asher petach ohel moed.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Asher kochech to Rana Judan and a mazel tov. You're welcome. It's good. Yes, good. See? Yeah, I like it. Yeah. You bet. You bet. Rana, it's always a little bit tense to be the first one from the family to come up and do it, right? To set the tone. And I got news for you. She set the tone. That was big. That was big. Okay. Up next, we have Chamishi, which is our 5th Aliyah. We have a guest Torah reader in addition to another honoree. Our honoree is going to be on Zoom. Jay Strauss, uncle of the Bar Mitzvah, is joining us from parts unknown. St. Catharines, Ontario? St. Catharines, Ontario. Parts unknown. It's very good. St. Catharines, Ontario, where the price of gas is the highest in Canada. True story. The reason, because it's so close to the American border, they don't want people coming over the border, like just to buy cheap gas or whatever. So the gas is, I know this because my wife's grandparents my father-in-law grew up in St. Catharines, so I've made a few trips there. So Jay will tell us not only something about the bar mitzvah, but maybe if the price of gas is still the highest in Canada. That's what I learned. I'm telling you, it used to be like that. Our guest Torah reader is Nate Grant. Come on up, Nate. Nate celebrated his bar mitzvah on this bima, 4 years ago? 3 years ago? 3 years ago. And he's a close personal friend and also a back lane neighbor. I was saying to Nathan, I was just like, do you know Nate Grant? And he's like, yeah, he lives right there. I'm like, we're on Zoom. I can't see where you're pointing. I don't know what you're talking about. But I took his word for it. And so Nate has prepared. He wanted to. It's his first time reading Torah since his bar, which is great. This is what we want out of every bar mitzvah boy. Nathan, at Gregory Hyman's bar mitzvah, you could do the same thing. Oh, wait, the family is here. That was awkward. We'll talk about it later. But for now, Nate's going to continue reading for us about the chatat reading. The most interesting part about the chatat offering is the blood. The blood, and the fact that the blood is sprinkled in different places. The blood had purifying power for the ancient Israelites. And there was almost like this idea that within the Mishkan, inside the tabernacle, every time somebody committed a sin, it was almost like an invisible layer of contamination built up. I'm serious. This is kind of the way to think about it. But by sprinkling blood, it could eliminate the contamination caused by sins. And depending on who sinned, like if it was the Kohen Gadol, we read about, his sin was very bad because he's a leader for the people. Or if it's a sin where the entire people sinned as a whole, which is interesting. I wonder how that could have happened. It's different from just a one-off, one person committing a sin. And so there's different categories of the kind of sin and who sins, but always the procedure focuses on the sprinkling of the blood. This, unlike the last sacrifice, none of the parts of the animal are eaten. The blood is the focus, and then, of course, the rest of the animal is burnt up. So, Nate, I'm going to move out of the way. Come on in here. Have we got Jay Strauss joining us? Perfect. See, I don't have a screen either. I'm flying a little bit blind here, too. There's your yad. Here's your mic. I'll show you your spot, and then we'll call Jay up to the Torah, and he can recite the blessings. So it is... I just finished reading. Here, so you see where my pinky is? The et? Yeah, that's your et. Right under here. Yeah. You see it? Yeah. Okay. The 5th Aliyah Chamishi, page 597, chapter 4, verses 8 through 12. Ya'amod simcha ben Marisyahu ve'ahava l'Aliyah Chamishit.
Whenever you're ready, Jay.
You're muted, Jay. We have no audio coming from you.
We can see you, but we can't hear you, Jay. Are you on mute?
No, he's not. It's something about his computer. We are open here? No, nothing is coming through your computer. I can see you, but we cannot hear you.
Rabbi, he chanted the blessing. Should we go into the reading? Yeah. Okay. Nate, when you're ready.
Amen. Ve'et kol chelev par hachatat yarim mimenu et hachelev hamechase al hakerev ve'et kol hachelev asher al hakerev ve'et shtei haklayot ve'et hachelev asher alehen asher al hakesalim v'tayoteret al hakaved al haklayot yasirena kasher yuram mishor zevach hashlamim v'hiktiram hakohen al mizbach halah ve'tor hapar ve'kol basaro al rosho ve'al kerav ve'kirbo ufirsho ve'hotzi et kol hapar el michutz lemachaneh el makom tahor el shefech hadeshen ve'saraf oto al etzim ba'esh el shefech hadeshen yisareh.
Your time for the blessing.
All right. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu torat emet b'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Now we could hear you.
Mazel tov, Nathan. Sorry about that.
Not at all. That was great. That worked out. Am I right about the price of gas in St. Catharines, or did I just remember that wrong?
I'm not sure. It makes sense. A lot of people used to cross the border to get gas.
Right? Americans.
And Yasher Koach, Nate Grant on a beautiful Torah reading.
That was incredible. Nate, great job as well. Great to have Jay join us. And we overcame the technical difficulties. And I'm just kidding. We have a lot of Americans watching our service. I love Americans. I used to go to Buffalo every year for a football game. Of course, this year in the pandemic is the first time they actually had a good team in 40 years or whatever. So all my buddies in Toronto and I were just sitting at home. We're just like, what is going on? Anyway, maybe next year. And maybe we'll have an opportunity to have Jay back in Winnipeg for future Simchas. But it's so nice to have him join us here on Zoom. I'm glad we could hear him do the blessing there, and you could hear him and see him wishing a mazel tov to his nephew, Nathan, who's going to come up and read from the Torah in one more aliyah. The sixth one is next. That's Shishi, page 597, verses 13 through 21. We're going to call up Nathan's grandparents, Arla and Martin Strauss, for the honor of reciting these blessings. As Arla and I have discussed, Arla celebrated her bat mitzvah on this bima at Shered Zedek just a few years ago. I don't know, Martin, where you had your bar. It wasn't here, though, was it? San Francisco. Destination bar mitzvah. I'd love to go to San Francisco for a bar mitzvah. That'd be so cool. Anyway, we're going to continue reading a little bit more here about the Chatat. But again, want to wish Yasher Koach to Nate for reading from the Torah, which is a great honor, and also to Jay Strauss for joining us on Zoom. Continuing now, page 597, verses 13 through 21. Yamdu Ahava bat Tzvi Ufreda Sarah Umatisyahu ben Shlomo v'Chaya L'Aliyah Shishit.
Baruch atah Adonai, Baruch Adonai hamvarach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah.
Let's start again.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Let's start again. It doesn't count.
Baruch Adonai hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai hamvarach leolam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamvarach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen.
Amen. Ve'im kol adad Yisrael yishku v'nelam davar meinei hakahal ve'asu achad mikol mitzvot Adonai asher lo tayasena ve'ashemu ve'noda hachatat asher chatu aleha v'ikrivu hakahal par ben bakar lechatat ve'viu oto lifnei oel moed V'samchu ziknei ha'edad yedehem al rosh hapar lifnei Adonai v'shachat et hapar lifnei Adonai v'hevi hakohen hamashiach midam hapar el ohel moed v'taval hakohen etzba'o min adam v'zah sheva pa'amim lifnei Adonai et pnei haparochet umin adam Yiten al karnot hamizbeach asher lifnei Adonai asher be'ohel moed ve'et kol adam yishpoch el yesod mizbach ha'olah asher petach ohel moed ve'kol chelbo yarim mimenu v'iktir hamizbecha ve'asa lapar kasher asa lefar achatat ken yaselo V'chiper alehem hakohen v'nislach lahem v'hodzi et hapar el michutz lamachane v'saraf oto kasher saraf et hapar harishon chatat hakahal hu.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen. Yasher Koach. The grandparents, Arla and Martin Strauss, our sixth honorees this morning. In a moment, we'll move on to Shvi'i, which is our seventh and final reading from this first scroll of the Torah. And we'll call Nathan up to be our Torah reader, along with his parents, Allison and Jonathan, to be our next honorees. We'll be on page 598, chapter 4, verses 22 through 26. I promised you that there should be a better translation. Chatat is often translated as the sin offering. Thinking that it comes from the Hebrew word chet, which, even if you're only in synagogue a couple times a year on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, you've heard this word a lot. Al chet, al chet, al chet. It has the same Hebrew letters, chet, tet, aleph. And so it's a natural idea, because it's related to somebody who commits a sin, that this would be the sin offering. But really, it's actually, you vowelize the word differently. If you vowelize it as chitei, it has the same meaning or connotation as the word kiper from Yom Kippur, which is to atone or to wipe clean or to purge, decontaminate. That's why sometimes people prefer to call it the purification offering and connect it less with sin, even though it's because somebody's done something wrong, but more because it's about using the blood to sprinkle and purify, decontaminate, purge the sanctuary, the Mishkan. So you can call it the sin offering. A lot of books do, but maybe it's better to think of it as the purification offering, which really is at the heart of the offering and less about the reason for the offering. Nathan is going to read for us, what if the sinner, the person doing the wrong, is the Nasi, the tribal leader, one of the heads of one of the tribes. We'll see kind of the process as that unfolds with our final reading here. And just to point out, because we didn't know when this date was, Nathan learned this Torah reading pretty quickly. No pressure. No pressure. Again, page 598, verses 22 through 26. And our honorees are Nathan's parents, Jonathan and Allison Strauss. Yamdu Yonatan ben Matisyahu ve'ahava, ve'aviva bar Avram ve'Sara, l'aliyah hashvi'i.
No. Oh, right there, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Asher nasi echeta ve'asa achat mikol mitzvot Adonai Elohav asher lo te'asevna bishgaga ve'Hashem ohodat elav chatato asher chata ba ve'hevi korbano Sayirizim zachar tamim, v'samach yado al rosh hasayir, v'shachad oto bimkom, asher yishchad et ha'ala lifnei Adonai, chatat hu, v'lakachat hakohen, midam hachatat b'atzvavo, v'natan al karnot mizbach Allah, ודמו ישפוך על יסוד מזבח חלה, ואת חלבו יקטיר המזבח כחלב זבח השלמים, וכיפר אליו הכהן מחטאתו ונסלח לו.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah temet, v'chayei olam natan b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Well, Nathan, you've read from the Torah for the first time in front of the congregation. How do you feel? Well, if you don't know, I can't tell you. It's kind of up to you.
Pick a word.
Good?
Yeah, good. Sure.
Okay, sure. Okay, great. Well, I'm sure your parents feel good. I want to offer them a very special blessing for helping. This is a milestone for you, but also for them to have their son become a bar mitzvah. So we offer them this special Misha Berach. Misha Berach, Avotenu Avram Yitzchak v'Yaakov, Sar Rivka Rachel v'Leah, Hu Yevarech et Aviva bar Avram v'Sara, V'Yonatan ben Matisyahu ve'ahava, Horei habachura bar mitzvah, Keshem shezachu legadel benam ad hayom hazeh, Ken yizku, L'hamshich u'ladrich et benam liot ben ne'eman, L'am Yisrael, HaKadosh Baruch Hu yechazkem v'yamsem, V'yivarchem b'chesed u'shalom, V'nomar Amen. May God, who blessed our ancestors, Avraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah, bless Allison and Jonathan Strauss, parents of Nathan, who becomes a bar mitzvah today. They thank you, God, for the strength you've granted them to raise their child so he could reach this time. Guide them to recognize Nathan's new responsibilities among the Jewish people and bless them with joy and fulfillment on this and every day. And let us all say, Amen. A mazel tov to the proud parents. You can stay up here on the bima so you can watch Nathan for his final Torah reading, which will be from the next scroll. Just before we get that scroll ready, we invite everyone here and watching wherever you are, please rise for Hagban Glila L'Sefer Harishon, the lifting and tying of the first scroll of the Torah, with our lay clergy, Leslie Emery. Vezot HaTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei b'nei Yisrael al pi Adonai biad Moshe ki mitzion tetzei Torah udvar Adonai mirushalayim ki mitzion tetzei Torah udvar Adonai mirushalayim Baruch Shenatan Torah le'amo Yisrael. Baruch Shenatan Torah le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato. You may be seated. Leslie, you don't need to rush. I'll read some of the chat, so it's all good. Leslie is going to help us transfer to the second scroll. The reason for a second scroll this morning is because of the unique nature of this bar mitzvah. On a bar mitzvah morning, we have an extra reading at the end, an eighth reading called the maftir. Maftir comes from a Hebrew word which means conclusion. And quite often it's a repetition of the seventh reading, or if the seventh reading is very long, the last part of the seventh reading. In this case, though, Nathan had prepared a Torah reading from back in November for a parsha called Chaye Sarah. And because he learned that Torah reading and never had a chance to do it out of the Torah, we decided to call back to that original date and make it his maftir for this morning. Since it comes from a different place in the Torah, we wanted to have another scroll set ahead of time, and so that's why we have a second scroll that'll be coming out. You can follow along in the same Chumash. We're going to go to page 136. So it's earlier in the book, earlier in the Torah, page 136, Genesis, chapter 24, verses 50, 51, and 52. Again, for all of you with a Chumash at home, Genesis 24, verses 50, 51, and 52. This is back from the story of Rivka and Yitzchak, one of our matriarchs, Rebecca, and one of our patriarchs, Yitzchak. And just as we're getting ready for this, I wanted to share some of the warm wishes and messages coming in on the chat for Nathan, especially now that he has read from the Torah. Zelda Elkin, Mazel Tov to Strauss family, Yasher Koach to all honorees. Cheryl Barish, Mazel Tov to the Strauss family. Dolly Cohn, Mazel Tov to the entire Strauss family, with a shout out to Leslie Emery. Hannon Bell, Mazel Tov to the Strauss family and Nathan on your bar mitzvah, being able to celebrate in the synagogue. Monique Danaher, I hope I get the name right. Congratulations to Nathan and all the Strauss family. So happy to participate from sunny Denver. Monique and Brian. Corey Glasberg wanted to wish Nate Grant a wonderful reading. That was earlier. Mazel Tov to the Strauss family from Yerach in Orlando. Congratulations to Martin and Arla from Erla. Does that make sense? Okay, good. Jay Strauss, Mazel Tov, Bubby, and Zeta. Right? We've got Carol Woodward joining us from Palm Desert. Mazel Tov, Shabbat Shalom to all. Mazel Tov to Nathan. Helen in Palo Alto, a Yasher Koach to Jay and Arla and Marty. Nice to see all of you. Someone remembers Arla's bat mitzvah. That's Susan Roskies. Is that right? Sound right? Susan remembers. Wow, I remember your bat mitzvah, Arla. Congratulations to Jonathan and family from Erla. We mentioned that. Jay, Uncle Jay, great job, Nathan. Yasher Koach to all called up for an aliyah from Jerome, one of our Shabbat regulars, one of our daily regulars. Wonderful reading, Nathan. Mazel Tov to you and your family. Corey Glassberg, another of our regulars. And yeah, that's great. Wonderful. Great messages coming in. Yes, chapter 24. So this special maftir, which Nathan had prepared for his first bar mitzvah date. That's cool. It's got the old and it's got the new. It's the best of both worlds. It's wonderful. It's Genesis chapter 24, verses 50, 51, and 52 from the Parsha of Chaye Sarah and the story of the first love story in recorded history in the Bible of when Isaac met Rebecca and fell in love with her on the spot. So this is going to be apart from that reading, and Nathan will read for us, and he will recite the blessings. We call him to the Torah for the first time in his life, and because it's his first aliyah, his bar mitzvah aliyah, we have a special call-up that goes like this. Yamod, 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 bar mitzvah. Yamod, Abachura bar mitzvah, Natan ben Yonatan ve'aviva. Maftir Chazak. Bar mitzvah, bar mitzvah, bar mitzvah. Ale, 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 lichvod Torah. Ale, 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 lichvod Torah. Lichvod Torah. Lichvod Torah.
Oh, yeah. Baruch Hu Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach leolam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen.
Ve'an lavan uvtuel vayomeru. Meronai yatsa hadavar lo nuchal. Daber elecha ra'ato. Hine rivka lefanecha kach v'alech. Utehi isha laven adonecha. Kasher diber Adonai. Vayehi kasher shema. Eved Avraham et Divrehem. Vayishtachu arza l'Adonai. Oh. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam natan b'tocheinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen. Misheberach Avoteinu Avram Yitzchak v'Yaakov Sar Rivka Rachel v'Leah Hu Yivarech et Natan ben Yonatan ve'aviva Shehigia lemitzvot ve'ala lichvod hamakom ve'lichvod haTorah ve'lichvod haShabbat HaKadosh Baruch Hu yishmereu v'yichayehu v'yichonen libo liot shalem im Adonai Elohav La'agot b'Torato lelech b'derchav v'lishmor mitzvotav v'yishlach bracha v'atzlacha b'chol ma'aseh yadav yizku horav legadlo letorah u'chupa u'masim tovim v'imsachen v'sechel tov b'nei Elohim ve'adam v'nomar Amen. May God, who blessed our ancestors Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah, bless Nathan Strauss, son of Allison and Jonathan, who has come for an aliyah this morning upon reaching the age of mitzvot, with reverence for God, with respect for the Torah, and for Shabbat. Nathan, may the Kadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy One, blessed be God, protect you and sustain you, helping you to be wholehearted in your faith, studying Torah, fulfilling the mitzvot, and walking in God's ways. May your parents continue to help you on your journey through maturity, guiding you to the threefold blessings in Jewish tradition of Torah, a life of learning, Chuppah, a life of loving relationships, and Ma'asim Tovim, a life of good deeds. May you find favor before God and the entire community everywhere. And let us all say, Amen. Simin tavu, mazel tavu, mazel tov, simin tav, simin tavu, mazel tavu, mazel tov, simin tav, simin tavu, mazel tavu, mazel tov, simin tav, yeheilanu, 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 ulecho Yisrael, yeheilanu, yeheilanu, ulecho Yisrael. Yeheilanu, yeheilanu, ulecho Yisrael. Yeheilanu, yeheilanu, ulecho Yisrael. How do you feel now?
He feels very relaxed.
He is very relaxed. That's his MO. It's great. And you sound great reading from the Torah and reciting the blessings. Congratulations, Mazel Tov again, and Yasher Koach. As it is custom for our bar mitzvah students on the Shabbat morning of their big celebration, Nathan will be chanting this morning's Haftarah, only it's not the Haftarah for Vayikra, it's the Haftarah he learned for his original date of Chaye Sarah, which means it's page 143 in the Chumash, and it's from the book of 1 Kings, chapter 1, verses 1 through 31. If you were with us back in November, when Nathan joined us virtually to commemorate that original date by chanting the Haftarah over Zoom. He had chanted the first, roughly 2/3. It's a very long Haftarah, so we kind of abridged it, and he chanted it beautifully from his home for all of us watching our virtual service. Since then, we decided to learn the rest of the Haftarah, so the entire thing, verses 1 through 31, which Nathan will now get to chant here from the Bima. Again, it's page 143, 1 Kings chapter 1, verses 1 through 31. As Nathan's getting himself ready, and as you're finding that place in the book, we'll invite you to rise one more time for the lifting and tying Hagban Glila of the second scroll, again with Leslie Emery. Vezot HaTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei b'nei Yisrael al pi Adonai b'yad Moshe ki mitzion tetzei Torah udvar Adonai mirushalayim ki mitzion tetzei Torah udvar Adonai mirushalayim Baruch shenatan Torah le'amo Yisrael. Baruch shenatan Torah le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato. Please be seated. So now we have the Haftarah. Again, there was talk kind of across North America, across the world probably among rabbis, what to do with bar mitzvah students in Nathan's situation who had learned a Haftarah. The Haftarah changes week from week. So when you have your last minute, your bar mitzvah postponed or canceled because of the pandemic, do you have to learn a brand new Haftarah, which is usually months and months of learning. It's a long reading. You'll see in a moment. And we decided here, and then other rabbis kind of said, yeah, that's a good idea, that no, we weren't going to make. Nathan already had the opportunity to learn a new Torah reading for today, which he did a marvelous job with. But the Haftarah, he's allowed to bring his Haftarah that he originally learned because it reflects, all those months of preparation and study. So that's why we have the Haftarah from Chaye Sarah, which is a story about some of the final days of King David and what's going to happen with his kingdom after he passes, which of his sons will take over. There's a bit of a family strife situation, almost kind of a civil war brewing, and how that plays out. This is from the beginning of the biblical book of 1 Kings. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Take it away. Nathan Strauss, the Haftarah for this morning from Chaye Sarah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nviim tovim ורצה בדבריהם הנאמרים באמת. ברוך אתה אדוני הבוחר בתורה במשה עבדו בישראל עמו בביאי האמת והצדק. והמלך דוד זקן בא בימים ויכסוהו בבגדים ולא ייחם לו. ויאמרו לו עבדיו יבקשו לאדוני המלך נערה בתולה ועמדה לפני המלך ותהי לו סוכנת ושכבה בחיקך וחם לאדוני המלך. ויבקשו נערה יפה בכל גבול ישראל וימצאו את אבישג השונמית ויביאו אותה למלך. ונערה יפה מאוד ותהי למלך סוכנת ותשאר תהו והמלך לא ידע. ואדוניה בן חגית מתנשא לאמור אני אמלוך ויעש לו רכב ופרשים ו50 איש רצים לפניו. ולא תבוא אביו ממאב לאמור מדוע ככה עשית וגם הוא טוב תואר מאוד ואותו ילדה חרב שלום. והיו דבריו עם יואב בן צרויה ועם אביתר הכהן ויעזרו אחרי אדוניה וצדוק הכהן ובניהו בן יהוידע ונתן הנביא ושמיני ראי, והגיבורים אשר לדוד, לא היו עם אדוניהו. ויזבח אדוניהו צאן ובקר ומרי עם אבן הזוחלת, אשר אצל אין רגל. ויקרא כל חב בני המלך לקודשי יהודה עבדי המלך. ונתן הנביא בניהו ואת הגיבורים ואת שלמה אחיו לא קרא. ויאמר נתן על בת שבע אם שלמה לאמור, הלא שמעת כי מלך אדוניהו בן חגית ואדוננו דוד לא ידע. ואתה לכי אעצך נעצה ומותי את נפשך ונפש בנך שלמה. לכי ובואי על המלך דוד ואמרת אליו, הלא אתה אדוני המלך, נשבעת למלך לאמור, כי שלמה בנך ימלוך אחרי, והוא ישב על כיסאי. ומדוע מלך אדוניהו? הנה עודך מדברת שם עם המלך, ואני אבוא אחרייך מילאתי את דברייך. ותבוא בת שבע אל המלך החדרה, והמלך זקן מאוד, ואבישג השונמית משרתת המלך. ותיקוד בת שבע ותשתחו למלך, ויאמר המלך מלך. ותאמר לו, אדוני אתה נשבעת באדוני אלוהיך לאמתך, כי שלמה בנך ימלוך אחרי, והוא ישב על כיסאי. ואתה הנה אדוני המלך, ואתה אדוני המלך. לא ידעת ויזבח שור ומבשון לרוב, ויקרא לכל בני המלך, לאביתר הכהן, ליואב שר הסבה, ולשלמה עבדך לא קרא. אתה אדוני המלך עיני כל ישראל עליך, להגיד להם מי יושב על כיסא אדוני המלך אחריו. והיה כי ישכב אדוני המלך עם אבותיו, והייתי אני ובני שלמה חטאים. והנה עודנה מדברת עם המלך, ונתן הנביא בא. ויגידו למלך לומר, הנה נתן הנביא, ויבוא לפני המלך, ותשתחו למלך, ויאמר נועל על אפיו ארצה. ויאמר נתן אדוני המלך, אתה אמרת אדוניהו ימלוך אחרי, והוא ישב על כיסאי. כי ירד היום ויזבח שור מבשון לרוב, ויקרא לכל בני המלך ושרי הצבא ולאביתר הכהן, והינם אוכלים ושותים לפניו. ויאמרו יחי המלך אדוניהו, ולי אני עבדך, וצדוק הכהן, ובניהו בן יהוידע, ולי שלמה עבדך לא קרא. אם מת אדוני המלך, נהיה הדבר הזה, ולא הודעת את עבדך מי יושב על כיסא אדוני המלך אחריו, וען המלך דוד לאמר, קראו לי לבת שבע, ותבוא לפני המלך, ותעמוד לפני המלך. וישבע המלך, ויאמר, חי אדוני אשר פדה נפשי מכל שרה, כי כאשר נשבעת לך באדוני אלוהי ישראל לאמור, כי שלמה בנך ימלוך אחרי, והוא ישב על כיסי תחתי, כי כן אעשה היום הזה. ותיכוד בת שבע אפיים ארץ, ותשתחו למלך, ותאמר, יחי אדוני המלך דוד לעולם. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, סור כל העמים, צדיק בכל הדורות, הנאמן, האומר ועושה, המדבר מקיים, שכל דבריו אמת וצדק. נאמן אתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו, ונאמנים דבריך, ודבר אחד מדבריך, אחור לא ישוב ריקם. כי המלך נאמן ורחמן אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני.
ברוך הוא ברוך שמו.
הנאמן בכל דבריו.
אמן.
רחם על ציון כי בית חיינו, ואהבת נפש תושיע במהרה בימינו. ברוך אתה אדוני.
ברוך הוא ברוך שמו.
משמח ציון בבניה.
אמן.
שמחנו אדוני אלוהינו, וינביא עבדך, ומלכות בית דוד משיחך, במהרה יבוא והגיע ליבנו, על כיסא לא ישב זר, ולא ינחלו עוד אחרים את כבודו, כי בשם קודשך נשבעת לו, שלא יכבה נרו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני.
ברוך הוא ברוך שמו.
מגן דוד.
אמן.
על התורה והנביאים והיום השבת הזה, שנתת לנו אדוני אלוהינו, לקדושה למנוחה, לכבוד ולתפארת, על הכל אדוני אלוהינו. אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך, יתברך שמך בפי כל חי, תמיד לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני.
ברוך הוא ברוך שמו.
מקדש השבת.
Amen. Mazel tov.
Mazel tov.
How do you feel now?
Good, I guess.
Do you think you can maybe do it again and maybe not with so much emotion?
This is his second run. Remember, we saw you on Zoom back in November, and it's so good to have you here in person today.
Nathan, you did a fantastic job with your Haftarah, just as you did with its blessings and with the Torah readings before it. And we can't wait to hear your Devar Torah, your speech, coming up in just a couple minutes, which will be kind of Nathan's last big moment of the morning. We have just a couple of very important prayers before that, so you can take a seat at the back if you like. It's another rite of passage to get to sit on the bima and the comfy chairs. We reserve those for the bar and bat mitzvah students we have. We have a couple of prayers I mentioned just before we return the Torah to the Ark, and then we get to hear from Nathan, kind of wrapping up and concluding our Shabbat morning. I did want to share a few of the great messages that have come in since you read from the Torah and have done your Haftarah, Nathan. Awesome job, Yasher Koach, Mazel Tov to the host Strauss family. That's from Susan, who remembers Arla's Bat Mitzvah. Mazel Tov to the Strauss family, Maureen and Jeremy Gordon. Yerach Lazarovitz, one of our regulars. Mazel Tov to the family and the Bar Mitzvah boy. Clara Roy, another Shabbat morning regular. Mazel Tov, Strauss family on this very special Simcha. Judy Chirac, very well done. Nathan, Mazel Tov to your whole family, all the participants in the service. Beautiful. So pleased to be a part of this celebration. Bonnie Robinson, what a wonderful Haftarah, Nathan. That was amazing. I agree. And Bonnie's a Bar and Bat Mitzvah tutor, so she knows. She knows. Great Haftarah, Nathan, from Jerome. Sarah says she loves the sound of relief. I guess that was the big exhale at the end from you, Nathan. Mazel Tov from Uncle Jay. Beautiful Haftarah from Jose Selva. Nice job. Good, very nice. Good job, Nathan. Love to the family from Boaz 777777777. 7777. I think I got all the sevens. That's the YouTube handle. From your bris in your grandparents' basement to reading Torah and Haftarah from the Bima. Amazing to watch you grow up into the person you've become so far. Mazel Tov to all of you. From Ilana Abrams. And Terry in Toronto, beautiful reading of the Haftarah. You made us all very proud, not only with your reading ability, but with your ability to not let something minor like a date change disturb you. Mazel Tov, Strauss family. And Helen in Palo Alto, Yasher Koach to Nathan, Mazel Tov, Allison, Jonathan, and Noah. Glad to celebrate with all of you. Andrea adds a Mazel Tov, Nathan, as well. So look at all those great messages, Nathan. And later on, you'll have to check out the YouTube because it saves all of the messages from the chat. So let's get to these very special prayers. We can put away the Chumash, and we can switch back to our Siddur, our paperback Siddur. And we can go to page 39. We have a special prayer for our country, which will be led for us by Nathan's grandparents, Corinne and Doug Fox. We call them to the Bima, again on page 39, a very special prayer for our country. Page 38, excuse me, at the bottom.
Our God and God of our ancestors, we ask your blessings upon our country and upon the leaders of our nation and of our communities.
Inspire all who lead and serve to conduct their affairs honorably. May peace and security, happiness and prosperity, right and freedom abide among us.
Unite the inhabitants of our country of all backgrounds and creeds so that we may banish hatred and bigotry, safeguard our noblest ideals, and preserve those institutions which nurture liberty.
May this land under your providence be an influence for good throughout the world, helping to unite all peoples in peace and freedom, and bringing closer to fulfillment the visions of your prophets.
Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore.
For the work of righteousness shall be peace, and the effect of righteousness calm and confidence forever.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much to Corinne and to Doug Fox. We have a prayer for peace on page 39, which will be led for us from the Bima by Nathan's aunt, Sarah Fox.
May it be your will, O God, that all war and bloodshed cease, and that a great and wondrous peace come to the world. May nation not lift up sword against nation. May they learn war no more. May all the inhabitants of the world recognize that we were not created for conflict, rivalry, hatred, jealousy, or killing, but rather that we were created in order to acknowledge you and to praise you for all time. Have compassion upon us, and fulfill for us the promises of Scripture. I will bring peace to the land, and you will lie down, and none shall make you afraid. And I will remove every evil beast from the land, and the sword shall not pass over your land. Justice shall flow like water, and righteousness like a mighty stream. For the earth shall be filled with the knowledge of the Lord as the waters cover the sea.
Amen. Thank you so much, Sarah. Yasher Koach to you, to Doug and Corinne as well. Our final prayer here before returning the scroll of the Torah is a Misha Berach for all those who are sick. We offer this at least once a day, sometimes twice a day, every day. Because, of course, with this ongoing pandemic, we have even more people we're praying for, as well as healthcare providers, doctors, nurses. We pause and reflect on everyone in that world who could really benefit from prayers for a return to a state of better health, what we call in Hebrew, refuah shlema. Whether it's physical health, mental health, emotional, spiritual, we pray for them all. We have a list of people whose names we will call. If you're watching on the chat, on YouTube or Facebook, you can add names to the chat and we'll read them. And even if there are people here who would like to call out names who are in-house with us, you can, of course, keep names in your thoughts, but if you want to say them out loud, we know many people do. And if you want to follow along the prayer, we actually flip back in the Siddur, page 34. It's a special musical Misha Berach that'll be led for us by Leslie Emery. But first, the people we're praying for. Esther bat Mina, Shoshana bat Sarah, Adrian McDonald, Frida bat Regina, Rishon ben Sarah, Trina Razel bat Pasha, Jane York, Ernie Hobbs, David Zvi ben Sarah Pestel, Dina Rachel bat Sarah Esther, Yitzchak Chaim ben Sarah, Tova Yael bat Dina Rachel, Shira Naomi bat Dina Rachel, Eliezer Meir ben Tova Yael, Katriel Yosef ben Tova Yael, Yisrael Chaim ben Shira Naomi, Aviva bat Malka, Yaakov ben Sion ben Miriam, Isabella bat Sarah, Chaya Zahava bat Leah, bat Sheva bat Sarah, Yitzchak Dov ben Bela, Michelle Sipe, Chaya bat Theda, Ida Rabinovich, Alexander Taft, Miriam bat Freda, Eliyahu Shlomo ben Chana, Moshe Aharon ben Leah, Miriam Rachel bat Leah, Elokim Pesach ben Esther Pessi, Liba bat Fagel, Sharon bat Goldie, Cindy Levinson, Elaine Miller, Leticia Corrado, Achazan Shefer ben Miriam, Shandel bat Miriam, Harav Avraham Yehoshua Heschel ben Root, Stephen Mabatia ben Wangari, Bela bat Sonia, Debbie Werner, Sheila Lubo, Binyamin ben Moshe, Rachel bat Sonia, Alfie Glass, Beryl ben Dvora, Esther Bela bat Sarah, Atara bat Etel, Shmuel Le ben Gittel, Dana Brinley, Janice Diner, Stephen Alexander Lee, Leah bat Rachel, Dvora Gittel bat Leah, Binyamin Pinchas ben Dvora Gittel, Nahum Le ben Leah, Label ben Yomen ben Manya, Lucy Braverman, Michael Braverman, Risa Langhans, Karen Greenberg. Devorah Leah bat Masha, Carmel Ellis Williamson, Herbert Singer, Carla bat Nancy, Kim bat Nancy, Andres ben Gloria, Temi bat Rochel, Sam's List, Ilana Rachel bat Eleanor, Eliezer ben Sarah, Rivka bat Kochava, Yochanan ben Esther, Yosika bat Shlomo Leib, Visara Devorah, Chana bat Chaya Etel. If there's anyone here in the synagogue who has a name they'd like to call out. Again, we're on page 34. Thank you to everyone who has added names, for keeping these people in your prayers right now, for the special Misha Berach by Debbie Friedman, for all those who are sick.
Misha Berach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misha Berach Imotenu Mekor HaBracha Leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Thank you, Leslie. We'll return the scrolls of the Torah to the ark. We invite everyone to rise. We invite the family to come forward to the bima to help us with the ark and to return the scrolls. And we invite you to turn to page 41 in the Siddur and follow along with us with the traditional returning of the Torah prayers, beginning with Yahalalu, led for us by Rabbi Mas.
יהללו את שם אדוני, כי נשגב שמו לבדו.
אותו על ארץ ושמיים, וירם קרן לעמו, תהילה, תהילה לכל חסידיו, לבני ישראל עם קרובו. הללויה, 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 הללויה. Page 43.
עץ חיימי למחזיקים בה, בתוקיה מאושר, דרכיה דרכי נועם, וכל נתיבותיה Shalom. Ashivenu Adonai Elecha v'nashuva Kadesh Yameinu Kadesh Yameinu Yameinu kekedem.
You may be seated. Now we get to hear from Nathan in his own words. He's read for us words of blessing this morning, words from the Torah, words from the prophets and the Haftarah, but now it's his own words. And you know, I'm going to tell you that Rabbi Mas has been looking forward to this, especially because every week he has to give the Dvar Torah. And yesterday he and I were kind of talking, and he was just like, no Dvar Torah tomorrow. Finally, a break. And I was like, yeah, for sure. Nathan's had this speech prepared for quite a while. It's a Dvar Torah, a teaching from his portion, from his original portion, I believe, of Chayei Sarah, but also some words of reflection on becoming a bar mitzvah and the journey that he's been on, this journey that started 1.5 years ago with Nathan and me. I was telling this story with another student. When Nathan and I started in November of 2019, a couple months later, I took a month off of parental leave at the end of my first son's first year of birth. And we took a trip just before the pandemic, and I was away. And I think during that month, I actually worked on your speech maybe or something like that. Anyway, since then, I've had another son. I've taken parental leave again, and now Nathan is still finally been waiting for his bar mitzvah. So now we are finally here. We've been looking forward to this moment. It's great, and we can't wait to hear what you have to tell us. One tip. Slow down. I can tell already you're going to go too fast. I can smell the food from the Kiddush luncheon coming in. It's not helping. I know, but a pleasing odor. Yeah. Coming out just like we came in. This is great. I like it. But first, we got to hear from Nathan. So Nathan, take it away, please.
I want to talk to you today about living a life of values. It's clear that we live in a world that is far from perfect. In fact, the rabbis tell us that we were born into this world to make it a better place. There are so many things we can do to leave a mark in our generation and have the satisfaction to say we contributed towards a better world. The rabbis talk about Jewish values. Values are fundamental beliefs to guide or motivate attitudes or actions. They should help us determine what is important to us. Jewish values include things like being honest, respect, responsibility, fairness, commitment to community, kindness, role modeling, and humility. As we can see, these are very important things we should all be doing, but unfortunately not everybody is committed to these Jewish values. In this week's parasha, we read about Sarah's death and how Abraham, after crying for the loss of his wife, wrote the very first eulogy. A eulogy is something we hear at funerals when someone dies. Family members take turns to share with family and friends all the values the deceased person had during their lives. Fortunately, Abraham's words to Sarah were not written in the Torah, but we know all the wonderful things she did during her life. She practiced almost all the Jewish values and left a legacy of a full life of meeting. We should all learn from Sarah's life and also commit ourselves to Jewish values. Becoming a bar mitzvah is all about understanding this principle. Becoming an adult means being aware of what we do and the impact of our actions. For example, understanding how important it is, the Jewish value of being honest. Remember the time when I was told the story of someone who lost their wallet, how the person who found it spent days trying to return it to its owner. As I'm getting older, this story is a reminder that I have to be honest in everything I do. Also, understanding the importance of respect. We should all respect our parents, teachers, friends. Embracing the value of responsibility. Children are not necessarily responsible for their actions, but as I become a bar mitzvah, it's very important to be a responsible person. We should be fair and never rush to judge others. We should also strengthen our commitment to community, understanding that we all are connected and we all need each other. Bringing kindness into everything we do, becoming a role model to others by living an exemplary life, and above all, to learn how to be humble. Avram and Sarah's remind us in this week's Torah portion that being a good Jew means to live a life of values. There's another important Jewish value that I would like to talk about and do something about it too. It's the value of tzedakah, sometimes translated as charity, but in reality it's righteousness, because giving to others is an ethical obligation. So I'd like to pledge some of my bar mitzvah money to support kids' sport. Kids' sport have the goal to help families overcome the sometimes prohibitive cost of organized sport. Kids' sport gives tens of thousands of kids each year the opportunity to participate in organized sport. Now I'd like to thank some very important people in my life. Mom, thank you for always supporting me when I need your help. You're always there for me when I need you. Thank you. Dad, thank you for helping me whenever I ask and for teaching me lots of valuable things. Thank you. Thank you, Mom and Dad, for being a great role models in my life. I still have lots of stuff to learn from you. Noah, thank you for always helping me not be bored and that we can always find something to do together. Thank you. Thank you, Noah, for teaching me the value of being patient. Bobby and Zeta, I always enjoy seeing you every Sunday and playing Monopoly with you. Thank you. Grandma and Gramps, I always have fun sleeping over at your house and always enjoy whatever we do together. Thank you. Rabbi Matthew, thank you for always making me laugh and helping me enjoy my time learning with you. And also thank you for spending, I think, an extra 4 months with me. And Rabbi Mass, thank you for, when Rabbi Matthew was away, teaching me for, I think, 2 months. And thank you for working with me on this speech for my special day. I would not have been able to do it without you. Thank you to everyone who came out or tuned in to celebrate with me on this special day. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Mazel Tov again, Nathan, and Yasher Koach. Wonderful words. I'll ask you for the final time. How do you feel?
Great.
Nice. Look at the improvement. You've gone from this shoulder shrug to great. That's awesome. And you continue to rise throughout the morning. And I think you really hit the high point right there with your speech, teaching us about Jewish values from your original Parsha, from your experience, from the role models in your family. You, I think, as some people in the chat mentioned, you've been a role model, I think, to a lot of us in the way you've rolled with all of the changes. Someone had said, right, don't let a thing like a change of date kind of throw you off. And it didn't. I mean, we were getting really close. Your parents and I were starting to get nervous back in November. And then sure enough, we were locked out of the synagogue and we had to postpone. And I remember you just kind of said, so I get a week off from lessons? This is good. I'm good. I'll see you in a couple of weeks, Rabbi. It'll be great. And that same smile, that same just kind of calm, relaxed attitude Leslie noticed on the bima with you this morning, you've had that through the entire time we've learned together, and it's really great. It's really something that I hope will rub off on, I hope it's rubbed off on me, Rabbi Mas, and other people, because throughout the pandemic, people have been struggling to find joy and find positivity and stay on track, and your story is an inspiration for all those people who are struggling, because you could easily have said, why has this happened to me? Why was my bar mitzvah, affected like this? What did I do wrong? But never once did you complain. Never once did you say that. You took it all in stride. And it speaks to a maturity that is very worthy of a bar mitzvah and far beyond your years. I still hope that one day soon we'll get out on the tennis court and I'll really be able to teach you a lesson. I may not look it, but I am a champion. At least up here. That's for another time. But I just really wanted to tell you how much I've enjoyed being your teacher, your bar mitzvah tutor. The extra 4 months were like a silver lining for me because I got to spend more time teaching you and learning from you. And just getting to see you on a weekly basis was great. I looked forward to our lessons. And it's going to be weird on Tuesday at 5:30 when there's a different face. And you're not there, though I'm sure you're really going to be missing it. At least for now, you've earned a well-deserved break. And I'm sure I'm speaking on behalf of Rabbi Moss, Leslie, everyone here at Shaare Zedek. We were just so proud that, like your grandmother, like your dad, you are now a new generation in this family that has come through our doors, that has stood in our bima, and that is part of our history. And we hope that you'll remember this proudly because we certainly will. And that you are welcome anytime you want to come back and read Torah, for example, like at Gregory Hyman's bar mitzvah. Okay. We have, I don't know if you've noticed, but on the piano here, I've put a few gifts. I had them away because I wasn't sure if you were going to earn them today, but I had a hunch. And luckily, I bet on you, and that'll pay off. On behalf of everyone behind the scenes, the Shaare Zedek Sisterhood, the board of directors, the office staff, the clergy, everyone wants to congratulate you on your accomplishment. And so we have a few gifts. There are, in the wrapped up boxes, there is 2 candlestick holders and a Kiddush cup. Beverly Nord, Zichrona Livracha, a longtime member of our shul and our sisterhood, used to present these to bar mitzvah students and remind them that now, because of their size, they're portable. You can take them wherever you go in your life, and you're going to go amazing places, and you can always celebrate Shabbat with a Kiddush cup and with candlestick holders wherever you go. You talked about another Jewish value among your several values of tzedakah, charity, righteousness. And we have the blue box from JNF, Jewish National Fund, Karen Kayemet L'Yisrael, if you want to include Israel among your charitable efforts. And I just want to say that the Kids Sport Tzedakah Project is a great project. I know how important sport is in your life, but maybe as you get older, Israel will be something you want to contribute to. Speaking of that, JNF has planted a bunch of trees in Israel in your honor. And if you ever get a chance to go to Israel and try and track down those trees, you might be thinking about doing a little university studying there. And there's a little bit of tuition money to Canadian Friends of the Friends of the Ben Gurion University in the Negev, and also a Canada-Israel project there as well to check out. Something that's a little bit sooner is grade 9, which feels like it's going to start like tomorrow. When you get to grade 9, you can join BBYO. And the first year, if you want to join BBYO, is free, thanks to some generosity from Cheryl and Earl Barish. So if you want to continue Jewish programming with BBYO, you can do that. And then to further your learning, because today feels like an end. I know something we've been building to, but it's really just the beginning. Today you got your Talit for the first time. Today you got to go to the Torah for the first time. And as you continue in your quest now of independence, maturity, responsibility, and being a Jewish adult, you may have some questions. You can always call me, Rabbi Moss. You can always ask. Sounds like Noah has a lot of wisdom that he can share with you. Your parents, of course, grandparents, other people. But you also have the complete how-to handbook, a guide for Jewish living. It's not meant to be read all in one shot. Like, it's meant to be used as a reference to build your Jewish and your your library that will help you in the future. And also, you're a part of the history of Judaism and Jewish people in Manitoba. And we offer you the book Coming of Age by Alan Levine, A History of the Jewish People of Manitoba, also for your library. So again, on behalf of all of us, Mazel Tov, Yasher Koach. We cannot wait to see what you become in your life, but we know that you are off to a fantastic start. A start worthy of blessing. And for that, I want to call your parents back up to the bima one more time to offer you a very special blessing. This is the blessing of the priests, of the Kohanim, thousands of years old. This is the blessing which Aaron, Moses' brother, and his sons used to use, and then all generations of priests ever since to bless the people, and then also how children are blessed by their parents on Shabbat. In Hebrew and in English, Jonathan Allison, please.
Yivarecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, Ye'er Adonai panav elecha v'yechanecha. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom.
Amen.
May God bless you and protect you. May God show you favor and be gracious to you. May God show you kindness and grant you peace.
Ken Yehi Ratzon, may it be God's will. The blessing is not complete unless there are hugs that come with it. This is the rule. Mazel Tov to the entire family. Let's get Noah up here one more time. Jonathan, Allison, Noah, and Nathan are going to help us with the Ark as we conclude our service with Aleinu, Mourner's Kaddish, and a special Adon Olam. But first, Aleinu, page 44. The ark is open, and we invite everyone to rise.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי ארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד, ושמו
I invite you to remain standing on page 46 for the Mourner's Kaddish. This week, we mourn the passing of Lois Ackerman. We offer our heartfelt sympathy to Ron Ackerman, Karen Ackerman and Jerry Reutelman, Ruth Ackerman and Tom Dickey, Elaine and Cy Goldberg, and Earl and Penny Weinstock. We also mourn the passing of Sandy Chachanoff and offer our sincere condolences to Gertie Chachanoff, Lori Chachanoff, and Joaquim Chachanoff. As well, we extend our condolences to the families of Helen Roseman and Debbie Stern, who are still in Shloshim, the first month of losing their loved ones. And this week, we commemorate the yortzites of Harold Buchwald, husband of Dee Buchwald, Mary Barish, mother of Earl Barish, Percy Devens, father of Erica Devens, Bessie Craven, great-aunt of Shelley Chachanoff, Paul Zaidman, Harriet Zaidman, and Ellen Zaidman, Sylvia Silverberg, mother of Nora Kaufman, David Bell, father of Dick Bell, Sam Maslowski, father of Debbie Maslowski, Elaine Altman, wife of Ian Altman, Siggy Wasserman, husband of Jackie Wasserman, Mendel Bellsberg, father of Donnie Stern, Al Arnovich, father of Sandy Polanski, Martin Siegel, brother of Lolly Gutman, Pearl and Benjamin Rosenheck, parents of Eric Rosenheck, and from One More Candle, Shlomo Birkenstadt, Zichronam Livracha, all of blessed memory. Again, Mourner's Kaddish on page 46. Yit Gadal ve'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Be'alma divrach irutei ve'amlich malchutei. B'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael. Ba'gala u'v'zman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevorach le'alam u'lamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shemei dekudsha b'richu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Damiran be'alma v'imru Amen.
Amen.
Yehei Shlama Rabba min Shemaya. V'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen.
Amen.
Oseh shalom bimromav. V'yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. V'imru amen.
Amen.
You may be seated. We have the Adon Olam, which is the last stop, which will be led for us by Noah Strauss. Right? Not happening? Is this a joke? No? Are we not doing Adon Olam? At all? We're scrapping it. Okay. We don't have to do it. Are we calling the others? No. It's not happening. Okay. This is my fault.
I can do it.
Well, why don't we just go straight into Kiddush with Nathan and then we can eat?
Reach nichoach.
Right. Okay, well, if that's the case,
Yes. Okay.
if you want your Adon Olam after Shabbat, find one of the many versions on YouTube and go crazy.
Oh, talking about YouTube. Remember, everyone, if you haven't done so, subscribe to our channel. Hit the bell so you will be notified. And let's see how many likes we have after this service.
Yes, I hope we
If
get
you
lots.
like the service, give us a thumbs up.
So we'll invite everyone to get back up one more time. Sorry for the fake out. I want to offer one collective blessing, and then Nathan is going to lead us in Kiddush and Hamotzi. The collective blessing is the Shehechianu for all of us here who have participated in this milestone. And then, in the meantime, Rabbi, will you help Nathan get ready with the... perfect, exactly. So please join if you know this one. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Amen. Praised are you, Adonai, our God, who rules the universe, who has given us life, who has sustained us, and who has enabled all of us to reach this milestone moment together. It's Shabbat, the holy day of the week, and to sanctify the day, we make a blessing over wine. And because we're about to partake in a festive meal, we make a blessing over bread after washing our hands. And to lead us in these blessings, who better than the bar mitzvah boy? On page 48 in the Siddur. Vishamru?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Veshamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat lasot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. B'nei uvein b'nei Yisrael oti olam oti leolam. Veshamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat lasot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim v'et haaretz
V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat lasot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam.
Uvayom hashvi'i Shabbat vayinafash Shabbat vayinafash Shabbat vayinafash V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat lasot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Oh yeah, Al ken berach Adonai et Yom HaShabbat v'yikachenu. Savri Maranan.
L'chaim.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri hagafen.
Amen.
And
here?
yeah.
Put it there. 1, 2, 3. I will pass you this so you can run and say the blessing.
Oh yeah, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kichanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al netilat yadayim.
Amen.
And Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lecha min haaretz.
Amen. Mazel tov, Nathan. Mazel tov to your parents, your brother, your entire family. Thank you to Rabbi Mas, to Leslie Emery, to Marvin Polanski, to all of you for being here, and to all of you for tuning in and watching us. Enjoy your Shabbat, however you spend it, wherever you spend it. Make it a good one, and we'll see you next time. And again, Mazel tov.
Shabbat shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
Hey.
Shabbat Shalom.
Hey.
Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Boom, boom, boom.
Shabbat Shalom. Hey.
Shabbat Shalom.
Hey.
Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Hey.
Shabbat Shalom.
Hey. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Simin Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Simin Tov, Simin Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Simin Tov, Simin Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Simin Tov, Yehelanu, 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 Ulechol Yisrael, Yehelanu, Yehelanu, Ulechol Yisrael, Yehelanu, Yehelanu, Ulechol Yisrael,